The lonely road back east through the bluish-tinged sands of the Cyan Desert looked long, strenuous, and uninviting. With little choice, however, we prepared to begin the arduous march forward, the return trip back to the bandit camp nearly a 2-week trek ahead. Several hours later, the tall stone walls of the city of Blue now below the horizon and out of sight behind us, the party continued its silent march forward. The desert surrounding us was total, a sea of sand, heat, and wind, an impossible environment to survive in without copious amounts of water. Fortunately, and for reasons we still didn't understand, the Sislan paladin brother Sen provided plenty of waterskins for our return trip east. While Sen made it clear that he saw our party as merely a tool to be used to spread the word regarding the paladins of Sisla, it couldn't have been as simple as that. Indeed, he did try to kill us, twice, so just letting us go like that made no sense, and my intuition warned me to be very careful. "There is something up ahead," Ariana announced, breaking the silence and pointing in the distance. Eswin nodded to Ariana with approval and the young elf strode ahead to scout what only she could see at the moment, soon nearly out of sight herself. After a minute or two of anxious waiting, Ariana then signaled for the party to join her, the way ahead apparently safe. Rejoining Ariana, our party encountered a lone horse standing on the road, the beast stumbling and about to collapse. On the back of the horse was an elegantly dressed woman, slumped over with her hands bound behind her back, a bewildering sight. Throwing caution to the wind, I instinctively stepped toward the horse, grabbing its reins and assuring the animal that we meant no harm before turning our attention to the woman on its back. With the help of Eswin and Sainairs, we then pulled the woman off the back of the horse and laid her down on the sand. Pushing away the hair from her face, I quickly recognized the woman as Voxar, the inner circle representative we had met earlier in Blue. Further, she had her hands tied behind her back, bound with a jacogard that prevented her from using her magic. She was all but defenseless in her current state. Quickly untying the representative, I uncorked one of the waterskins brother Sen left us and applied its cooling water to her parched lips. Both Sainairs and Kartha applied their healing power as well, our heroes quickly bringing the sorceress back to consciousness. Voxar looked about and sat up under her own power, not accustomed to needing the help of others. She then recognized all of us and, for a moment, showed a hint of a smile. "It appears your assistance is most timely." Representative Voxar, Redfern inquired, genuinely concerned for her. "What happened?" "We were told you were banished," Kartha added, concerned as well. "We thought that meant you returned to the circle. How did you get out here?" "I knew Frolin and Dilt were up to something, but I never thought they'd try to murder me," Voxar returned, both upset and embarrassed. "Someone kidnapped me, bound me with the jacogard and led me out here to die." Given the circumstances of the past few days, I estimated that she had been in the desert for at least 24 to 36 hours. Had we not found her, she likely would have expired in only a few more hours. Suddenly, the immediate area began to rumble, the sands dancing all around us. Looking about, the rumbling quickly escalated, something was happening almost immediately beneath us. The ground then gave way and we slid down into a sudden funnel nearly 20 feet deep. Emerging from the bottom of the pit were several large creatures with massive pincers. My party was under attack by a group of giant ant lions. "These things are real?" Eswin shouted, drawing his weapon as our party fell toward the monsters. From what I knew, giant ant lions were humongous predatory beetles about the size of a herd animal that built networks of underground tunnels with multiple trapdoors. When a victim reached one of these trapdoors, everything suddenly swirled downward like a drain, dragging the victim below, typically a drop of 10 to 20 feet where the ant lion could then pounce and attack. Reaching the bottom of the sand pit, we immediately faced 7 giant ant lions, each of them biting at us with their massive pincers. While confined within the pit, we were able to drive the monsters away and we soon climbed back out, returning to Voxar moments later. "If all of you are done fooling around, we need to go back to Blue and save all those dwarves," Representative Voxar criticized as we gathered again alongside the ant lion pit. "Can I count on you?" "The Tears of Blue have already been restored," Redfern returned, not at all insulted. "We've already saved the dwarves. And got booted out of the city in the process," Eswin added, putting his weapon away. "Very impressive," Voxar finally said, looking us over with a new level of respect. "You managed that on your own?" "We're not as inept as you may think," Eswin responded, matching her cynicism. "Apparently. Then I suppose I should return to the circle. They need to know what's happened here. And put Frolin in his place," Ariana almost shouted, still angry over our party's general betrayal by the Dwarven King. Indeed, Voxar nodded in agreement. And what will you tell the circle about us? Eswin asked, quite the relevant question. Representative Voxar looked to Eswin for several moments, the sorceress apparently thinking long and hard about our party before forming her response. Restoring the Tears of Blue and saving the Dwarven populace was a grand thing, but it does not begin to compare to the travesty of releasing the Hellions into our world again. I still see no reason why the circle shouldn't execute the lot of you. Can't we talk about this? Kartha asked, matching contempt with genuine compassion. Putting us to death won't drive the Hellions away, either. Please, give us a chance to redeem ourselves and let us help save this world. I can respect your position, Voxar softly replied, her mind already racing. I could neglect to tell the circle about you, but I would want a favor in return. And what can we do for a circle wizard? Redfern asked, sensing an opportunity. My father, his name is Lodis, has gone missing. Find him, rescue him if you need, and I will forget I ever met all of you. Can't your high and mighty magic find him? Eswin sarcastically replied, still distrusting of the sorceress. What do you need us for? He's just as powerful as I, Voxar replied, her honesty surprising. He's avoided my attempts to scry for him, he does not want to be found. Then we will have to track him down on our own, Kartha suggested, the only real choice. Any idea where he might be? I haven't seen him in years, the circle representative answered, her response not all that helpful. My sources suggest he was last seen within the island nation of Genland. Genland? Kartha responded, surprised, and even somewhat shocked. He went there? Is he crazy? I know. The sorceress exclaimed, throwing her arms up in the air. That place has been a sanctuary for women for decades, arresting and even executing any man who dares trespass. What he's doing there I have no idea, but I need you to find out and even rescue him if need be. That's a strange request, Sainairs commented, relatively quiet during the conversation. What aren't you telling us? Indeed, it did seem that Voxar was holding something important back. I suspected that while Voxar was being generally honest with the party, she wasn't only withholding information but she was very worried for her father. Hence, it felt that she was sending our party into significant danger without adequately warning us about it. And where is this Genland you want us to go to? Eswin then asked. Off the coast southeast of here, many weeks if you travel on foot and then ship, the concerned sorceress responded, pointing in the appropriate direction. But I need you to begin your search immediately, so I will teleport you to its capital city of EAA. You can start your search there. My friends nodded, instinctively gathering into a tight circle. We had been through this teleporting thing before and we knew what to expect. One last thing, Voxar announced, drawing a deep breath before continuing. Those of you who are male, you will need to disguise yourselves while in Genland and act as ladylike as you can. What? Eswin demanded to know, offended by the advice. Are you insane? I will never agree to. Summoning an insignificant amount of her nearly limitless power, Voxar magically disguised all the men in my party into women, changing their hairstyles, assigning appropriate clothing and even removing all facial hair in preference to color and subtle makeup. Sainairs seemed ambivalent to the sudden change. Redfern smiled a bit as he looked himself over, rather impressed, while Eswin was outraged, and I couldn't help but chuckle at the sudden transformation. Caught mid-sentence, Eswin just stared forward, utterly shocked by his feminine transformation and unable to speak. Voxar smirked, then conjured her teleport spell, about to whisk us far southeast. You can undo the magic whenever you wish, but find Lodis as soon as you can and get him out of Genland. Do this, and I will keep the inner circle away from all of you for as long as I can. And with that, everything went black for a moment as we were all teleported away. A wild moment later, we found ourselves standing alongside a large and impressive stone bridge spanning a gentle river underneath. A lone road crossed the bridge, leading from the southeast towards the horizon directly to the main gate of EAA just a few hundred yards away. Voxar appeared to have teleported us to a place where we could first talk amongst ourselves and prepare for our entry into EAA, given that we would need to not only look like women but act like women as well. Despite the surprise and alarm from Sainairs, Redfern, and especially Eswin, I was able to quickly contain the angst and frustration, seizing control of the situation before it could escalate out of control. This is your fault, wizard. Eswin shouted at Redfern, his anger not abating. They're just disguises, Redfern replied. It's not like she turned us into women. All of you look adorable. Ariana added with a smile, her innocence refreshing. This beats the circle's wrath, I added, reminding the party that things could be far worse. Voxar could have teleported all of us to whatever prison the inner circle would like to throw us into. Being sent on a new quest was certainly preferable. Does anyone know anything about this place? Sainairs asked, looking about and changing the subject. For one, we mutant call Genland home. For as much as we have one, Cartha replied, at least somewhat familiar with the country. From what I understand, females of all races are encouraged to relocate here, a supposed utopia for any woman. I am curious myself to see if the stories are true. While I didn't know much, I could confirm Cartha's statement. Genland was known for attracting females from all over Mariga, a place where they could live, work and thrive apart from men. It's the part where males caught within its borders are arrested and even executed that concerned me, of course. I am afraid I don't know much about how to pass as a woman, Redfern acknowledged, still looking himself over. Any recommendations? Ariana giggled, then stopped after Cartha's look of scorn and concern. The mutant turned and then looked over all the men in the party, ensuring that they looked as feminine as possible. Best to let Lomtora, Ariana, and I do all the talking, Cartha instructed, struggling a bit with Eswin's disguise. Be courteous and respectful, use your falsetto voice if you must speak, and look people square in the eye. The women here are very proud and they'll expect the same from all of us. I don't know if I can do this, Eswin returned, clearly dreading our attempt to pass into EAA. This is against my very nature. Don't make this harder than it is, Ariana offered with a smile. Just be thoughtful and respectful in all your interactions and we will be fine, despite the disguises, just be yourself. Eswin begrudgingly agreed, he still felt quite uncomfortable with the situation but at least he was willing to try. Crossing the bridge to the northwest and soon reaching the main gate of EAA, we were surprised by how unsecure it actually was. There was no primary wall encircling the capital city, nor was there any sort of portcullis that could be lowered and raised to control those entering EAA. Instead, there were just two 50-foot stone towers standing side by side to mark the city's entrance, separated by about 30 feet. Several dozen townswomen freely came and went between the two towers, the guards keeping a casual eye on them. As several women left the EAA main gate, a taller, thin, elf-like woman with very dark skin and pale white hair happened to pass closely by. While I had never actually met a dark elf before, she certainly appeared to be one and the party seemed interested in stopping her to ask a few questions. The dark-skinned woman looked our party over as if we were not to be trusted, but at least she stopped. We had her attention. What do you want? The female drow began, her eyes darting amongst all of us. Don't worry, we won't harm you, I began, trying to put her mind at ease. I am Lomtora and these are my friends. We just want to ask a few questions, alright? I am Grykla, the dark elf responded, still quite unsure of us and our intentions. What do you want to know? For starters, what's a dark elf doing here in Genland? I asked, trying to be as respectful as possible. Don't you know? Grykla responded, surprised. Genland is accepting of all women, regardless of their color, race, or beliefs. It's one of the very rare places I can go and not be hated for being what I am. Grykla still looked quite nervous, she seemed unnaturally fearful and I wondered what could have happened to her in the past to make her so skittish today. Of course, I was familiar with the banishment of the Dark Elves at the end of the Age of Damnation, and how they had to eke out a miserable existence ever since in places even dwarves wouldn't go. Surely their race had more than paid for the mistakes of their forefathers 10 centuries ago and I did feel bad for Grykla. Ariana then stepped forward, naturally curious about her racial cousin and asking her a question with a gentle smile. And what's the best thing about being here, Grykla? The dark elf managed a faint smile as well, took a tiny step forward and reached out to Ariana, softly combing back Ariana's hair with her fingers. There is an innocence here, unlike anywhere I've ever been. I am free here, to do as I wish, pursue my passion, exist in ways impossible back home. This place is magical, beautiful, and I hope you enjoy it half as much as I do. If I didn't know better, Grykla seemed almost smitten with Ariana. The dark elf then smiled, stepped to Ariana and gently kissed her on the lips, surprising everyone, especially Ariana. Yet Ariana seemed to enjoy the interaction and allowed the kiss to last several more seconds, the sight almost wondrous to behold. The kiss then ended and Grykla took a step back, her smile still in place. "I hope I see you again," Grykla whispered to Ariana, the latter elf a little embarrassed. "For now, I take my leave." The dark elf turned to me and nodded, then stepped away, leaving behind a bit of advice. "Enjoy everything EAA has to offer, ladies. This city is one of a kind." "Is everyone here so sensual?" Red Fern asked, our party watching Grykla cross the bridge where we had arrived a short time ago. "Let's go find out," Kartha responded, leading us toward the 2 stone towers. "Ariana, let's lead the way. If you can focus." The young elf the last to take her eyes off Grykla, Ariana nodded her head and jumped alongside Kartha, the 2 female heroes leading us to the guarded city's gate in a few short moments. Finally reaching the 2 stone pillars marking the official entrance into the city, several female guards watched as we approached. At first, the guards didn't seem all that interested, but as we neared them, they realized that we had never been here before and so they stopped us at the gateway. "Welcome, ladies, to the capital city of EAA," began an impressive-looking human guard with long brown hair and powerful muscles to match her beauty. "I am Nira, the captain of the guard, and I need some information first before I can allow you into the city." As Nira looked us over, her eyes soon fixated on Eswin and I worried that she was about to expose him. Thinking quickly, Kartha stepped in front of Nira, seizing her attention instead. "We're looking for a friend who may be here," Kartha instructed, the guards all turning to her. "A mutant?" Nira replied, surprised yet delighted. "Yes, there are several mutant here, attending their gardens to the north in the city. Maybe the sister you're looking for is there. And these are my friends who have all heard of Genland and wanted to see it themselves," Kartha continued, a bit of a lie. "We promise not to give you any trouble." "We're not worried about trouble," the woman returned, taking her eyes off Kartha and back to Eswin, stepping toward him moments later. "Most visitors fall in love with EAA. But, occasionally, there are those who do cause trouble, especially those who don't belong here." Nira now stood before Eswin, inspecting him like a fellow soldier. Even with Voxar's magical disguise, Eswin didn't look all that feminine and it appeared Nira had realized this. Eswin nervously looked away from Nira, his anger barely in check. Just as I felt Eswin was about to be exposed, however, the guard captain turned back to me, a confident smile upon her own face. "EAA is a city for new beginnings," Nira announced, her attitude just and sincere. "It may be a man's world out there, but here in Genland all of you are welcomed, honored, and respected. Forget any past prejudices or misogyny you may have experienced. Here, you will find only love, beauty, and acceptance." Despite what appeared to be a challenging position as captain of the guard, Nira seemed extremely sincere. She definitely believed in everything she was telling us and I couldn't wait to explore EAA in earnest. "To enter, all we ask is that you swear fealty to Queen Delphana, our governing mother who makes life within EAA possible," Nira then announced, her voice firm yet still friendly. "Please prove your allegiance by accepting the mark of the white rose." The soldier held up the back of her left hand, displaying a tattoo of a white-colored rose. She then retrieved some sort of stamp from a pouch around her waist, ready to press the device against each of our hands as we passed through. The question was, were we willing to accept the marking, and everything it represented? "Is there any magic involved?" Kartha asked, wanting to know more about what we were about to agree to. "Magic?" Nira said with surprise. "No, there is no magic involved. Our stamps use a temporary ink that wears off in time. But the oaths are required. We can't let you in if you refuse the white rose." As Nira waited to see what we would do, Kartha stepped to my right, whispering into my ear. "We need to enter the city, regardless of the price, and a little ink on the back of the hand isn't all that worrisome." Recognizing that we had no other choice anyway, I nodded affirmatively, agreeing to be stamped. And with that, each of my heroes stepped past Nira, the guard captain reciting to new beginnings. And stamping the top of our left hand with the white rose, the temporary tattoo actually charming. Soon the deed was done and all of us were stamped, welcomed, and standing now just within the city of EAA. Studying the new mark on my left hand, I watched as the tattoo ink dried almost instantly, the white rose image rather complex. While temporary, I suspected that it may take weeks, months, even, for the ink to eventually wear off. Fortunately, I didn't feel any pain or magical sensation from the mark. It appeared to simply be a temporary tattoo and nothing more. Nira flashed us one last smile, then turned back toward the main gate as a few new women arrived to enter the city. Nervous the entire time for my adventuring party in getting past the guards, the magical disguises created by Voxar had worked. We were in the city now and could go anywhere we wished. Still exhausted after our battles with the paladins of Sisla back in blue, we all agreed to first seek the city's primary hostel and get a good night's rest. Located roughly halfway between the city's main gate and power tower, the hostel was large, well-built, and stunning to behold, filled with immaculate furniture, dozens of flower bouquets and quaint knickknacks I had never seen anywhere else. The place was also filled with women of all sizes, shapes and races, and I felt at home within the impressive inn. While most women here seemed calm and at ease, I did overhear a conversation of concern, one that focused on some sort of problem within the city. Naturally, I stopped and waited a few moments to hear more. They attacked along our western shore. Began an older human, rather distressed. I heard they were huge and it took half the city's guard to drive them away. My word! Another older woman exclaimed, her shock apparent. Do you think we're in any danger? It's not the first time either. The initial woman responded. There is something going on they're not telling us. The second woman nodded her head before noticing me and ceasing her conversation. A little embarrassed, we then made our way to the front desk. I am Alfrida, welcome to my hostel, a middle-aged halfling woman said as we approached, quickly counting the number of heroes in my party. Looks like you ladies just arrived, will you be staying long? We're not sure, Kartha responded, looking about almost in wonder. Your establishment is beautiful. You look like adventurers, the halfling responded with a smile. I was one too, back in the day. Saved all my coppers to buy this place not long ago. How can I help? What's the word here in EAA? I asked, continuing the pleasant conversation. Everything is just splendid, Alfrida responded with a grin. EAA is unlike anywhere else within Mariga, we all have each other's best interests at heart. Most who come here never leave. Ariana and Kartha smiled, while the men in my party just looked away. Anyway, I will only charge your entire party a single gold coin to stay the night, Alfrida continued, about to rent us some rooms. You can stay as long as you wish, but once you leave and return, I will need to charge another gold coin. Fair enough? The rent did seem fair, more than fair, and I wondered why the halfling was being so generous. Perhaps that's just the way all the women treated each other here in EAA? Making payment, my party was then escorted to several lavish rooms, the most elegant and cleanest I had ever stayed in. Clearly, Alfrida valued her guests tremendously. And that's a wrap of episode number 27, Mark of the White Rose. Expect additional episodes every few weeks as the story continues.